Oh, hey there, good looking. Oh, and Joe's here too. Welcome back to another episode of Chatting with the Champ, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with the long anticipated, the commissioner himself, Joseph Bell, owner and proprietor of both sides of the bun. Commissioner, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for finally fitting me in. It's been a year coming, right? We missed out on last year's, and we missed out on last week's, and yesterday's, and every other day we tried to plan.
Yeah, I skipped you a few times and stopped answering text messages. Wasn't personal, it was.
Save the best for last.
I have three more.
That's why more people are coming out.
I have 3 more interviews after you. Funny you should mention that. So, let's cover last year. First ever team with a losing record to make the playoffs. You just never gave up.
As much as I love you pointing out the first ever losing team to kick things off, I think we could have just started with congrats on the playoff run. It was the most impressive playoff run that we've ever seen in the league to get there. Of course, we didn't come through at the end. We got a gimme in the first round, and we were able to put a beat in on a team that probably shouldn't have been in the playoffs anyway, but we obviously fell to the champ, so if you're going to lose to anyone, you lose to the champ. But yeah, I told you all, I believe in week 11, no... 11.
There is video evidence of you calling your shot,
11.
yes.
I said, the chances of me, I believe we went around the horn, you said 0, I believe Matt said possibility, but very slim, I think Jake said 0, and I said that I guarantee you in 3 weeks I will be sitting here in the playoffs talking about a playoff game. I did it, no surprise. I usually follow through on things that I say I'm going to, and here we are.
Well, that is impressive. Some would say that Jose and Brock are both the biggest choke artists in the world, but you made the playoffs. I mean, you persevered. Things did not go your way.
Let's not overlook that I did beat both of them in getting to the playoffs. So it's not like I did need some help, but I didn't just roll out of bed into a playoff spot. We put together
I think using the rolling out of bed, I think just both of them forgot to set their alarms. They woke up late. They showed up like, oh shit, I have a fantasy football game today. But I mean,
you can only be who's put in front of you.
No, that's true. It's true. I mean, you do make the schedule,
but
put
a lot of people in front of me, took them down. Unfortunately, ran into admittedly so, very stacked team in the playoffs, and congrats on taking home the trophy. If there's anyone else going to lose to, like I said, I'd rather it be the champ.
Well, thank you, but it is impressive. I mean, you proved that you're never really out of it. I mean, you won week 1 against Tom, and then you went on like a little slide. It was like 1-3, and then Derrick Henry had that COVID game, which kind of like forced you into having to make a deal where you actually only made 2 trades this year. Usually you're a little more active.
Yeah, I think, well, first off, COVID Disney, best Disney. COVID football, worst football. We got put in a situation last year where Derrick Henry's team decided that they didn't believe in COVID, and they were going to all practice without masks on and basically purposely break every rule in the book that you could to try to get COVID. It's a bold strategy. Really fucked up my team. I had to think about Derrick Henry being my only running back. If he sits out, I couldn't start a running back. I have to drop someone to pick up a bottom tier bench player. So you and I made the first trade, as you talked about. I think it worked out for both of us. I think it was a pretty good trade.
Yeah, because about 15 minutes after that, Kareem Hunt became the starter for the Browns.
Yeah, but don't get me started on him. Kareem Hunt was talk about underperforming last year. He was better off as Nick Chubb's backup statistically than he was as the one, which is slightly concerning. But yeah, less trades last year, to your original point. I tried to work something out. I think Jake mentioned it in his video. We were up till 2:30 a.m. trying to get something done. He had a trade with Tom on the side. I had a trade on Tom on the side. It was the fucking Spider-Man meme. We were all pointing at each other and nothing got done. So
you were both trying to play each other with Tom.
No, everyone knew what was going on. We were trying to work out a 3-way trade.
So this was a menage trade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We were all basically, hey, I want this player, and then 3 o'clock came, 3:01 hit, and we couldn't do anything.
Wow, that would have been interesting. I don't think we've never had a 3-way trade in the league. That would be some shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's that just goes to it. You did make another trade.
I did, yeah. I forgot about that one. That
Yeah,
one was,
Justin Jefferson and Justin Tucker for Michael Thomas and Harrison Butker.
Yeah. I think the kickers were kind of irrelevant, more of just like a sprinkle on top. Charlie obviously is in love with Justin Tucker.
Yeah, it's weird.
It happens to be. I wish I didn't make that trade, not for the obvious reason of Michael Thomas being a complete pussy all year, but for the reason that I had another trade on the side. I don't know if this individual will bring it up. I know I brought it up quite a bit. We basically agreed on it.
By all means.
Alex and I were working something out. He'll probably tell you he doesn't remember it at this point, but I wouldn't want to remember last season either.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he's going to pretend like he doesn't remember last year at all.
We had a Justin Jefferson, Kenyon Drake for Devontae Adams deal worked out. And I think there may have been one more like a pretty high piece on my end and one more like average player on him. It was a good trade at the time for both of us. No one would have thought Devontae was going to go on that run of 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns that he did. But
he had 18 last year.
I honestly think if I would have pulled the trigger on, looking back on last year, that's probably the one area where I'm like, if I pull the trigger on that trade instead and I choose that over Michael Thomas, I have a pretty good shot at beating you in the playoffs.
Sure. Maybe. Honestly, I don't know what the numbers would have been. I'd have to look at that. But I mean, yeah, Devontae Adams went on a tear. But yeah, that's the usually you are like, again, I brought it up to Jake too. Like you two are usually pretty active on the trades. Was that like lack of willing partners? You know, you just weren't able to.
I think a big thing of it was with Fab last year as well. I think more people were able to get pieces. Whereas we had the past few years, if you see, I think I was on one on the waiver wire for a while. You've done it. You kind of have that one person holding out in the waiver, and it kind of limits the waiver wire activity. Fab, we saw a lot more activity last year where people were able to fill in their roster in other areas. They didn't have to stretch for a trade. And
that's a good point.
So I think that played into it. I think COVID played into it. People were a little bit more hesitant to move players. Obviously, everyone was kind of sitting on eggshells last year because they just didn't want, you trade a player, you get kind of screwed out of a spot if something with COVID pops up. You never know if someone's going to get either a game forfeit or not be able to play, postpone, yada yada. We've seen a lot of that last year. And overall, yeah, just we're always talking to people. I talked to just as many people last year as I did the previous years. Just didn't.
So that was just a circumstantial thing. That wasn't like a.
Yeah, I think if you go
philosophical,
if you go in the league
deliberate
and say,
choice.
Hey, I'm going to trade less. I think. You probably should think that your trades that you're doing, the only reason I ever attempt to trade is to make my team better. So if I'm saying I'm going to trade less purposely, that may tell me, like, am I going to not make I'm going to make my team, I'm going to limit myself and make my team better. Doors always open.
No, I agree with that. I was more along the lines of maybe overconfidence in a roster or something like that, where like someone, like, maybe you're a little late to the truth is like, well, my team's stacked on paper, but they're underperforming, and is it, a hesitance on that, on that front, or? I think
I knew at the time last year I didn't have the best roster. I think it was everyone pretty much knew you had the best roster last year. You were well-rounded in all areas, especially after getting Kittle. Tunyon played really well for you, and then you got Kittle at the end of the year.
Thanks, Tom.
So it was more of like, I'm looking at schedules, I'm looking at matchups, I'm looking at how can I play it, and at that point, by the time the trade deadline comes, your roster's basically shaped up by then.
Yeah.
Besides like those that are on the wire, and then like I said, that's where Fab was playing in. So, I know I didn't have the top talent, but it's not always about the talent on paper. Any given week, right? You can take someone down. So just trying to play the matchups and do the best I can as an owner. Obviously, not out on the field carrying the ball. Kenyon Drake getting the end zone, but
I'm surprised you haven't taken a shot at Lamar yet.
No. He actually, I honestly think Lamar Jackson, I gave him a lot of shit last year, but he's the reason I went on that run at the end. He really stepped it up.
So, no regrets about taking him in the third?
Very much regrets. Okay.
Third.
Yeah, he wasn't a third-round pick. I went against my whole strategy there. I'm usually
a late-round quarterback guy.
I'm a value quarterback guy. So if Lamar, I think I just reached a little too high on Lamar. I think I had him coming in my draft right around the third round is like ADP and where I think he may go. And I took him at his ceiling, which I never like to do. Maybe some others like doing that. I don't. I like to take people at their value and then hope for a ceiling performance. If not, if you have to off that player, trade, cut them, you're at least getting rid of them at a lesser capital than a third round pick. But
that is a great point. Draft for value rather than ceiling, because very rarely do players hit their absolute ceiling. But back to Fab as the commissioner. How'd you think it went? First year for the league.
Fantastic. It was. I'm so glad that it passed and we're continuing it along. I think it grants more opportunity for owners to be active. It doesn't restrict people from going into the waiver wire, discourage them from putting in bids on the waiver wire. You now have the ability to do whatever you like. You manage your acquisitions. I also think it shows in the responses that we've had. Even the people that voted against it last year seemed to be happy about it and seemed to really enjoy it. So
yeah, you did bring up a fair point though earlier regarding trading now, because Fab does give you, I guess, a little more flexibility. Honestly, I hadn't thought about that. So I mean, that's a great point. Now, are you concerned about that at all, affecting like the activity of the trades? Obviously, I'd have to go back, look at the overall trade numbers, and see what that would be compared to years past. But
no, I don't think so. I think we still were as active as ever last year. Very weird year, like I said, so that could play into it as well. 1 year sample size, you never want to take that and run with it, but we'll see how it goes. And I know we've talked about some roster changes to be voted on in the upcoming years as well. Almost had one go through this year, so we'll see what comes about. But I don't have any concerns. I know our league is very active. We're always going to have people talking. Whether or not the trigger gets pulled and the trades happen, that's up to chance or up to that moment. But no concerns as far as activity.
Yeah, I mean that's I guess that is you are correct. You should never just take correlation and causation are two very different things. So let's move on to this year. 5th overall selection.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I feel great. I'm hearing rumblings of everyone mapping out the first round.
Well, I think there's about 3 people in the East that are doing that.
I'm getting a lot of messages as far as like, hey, I think you're going to get this person. Hey, I think you're going to get that person. I personally don't think that anybody at 5, there could never be a situation that shapes up where I'm at 5 and I go, oh man, I don't want this person on my team.
I'm in trouble, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all know that the top 4, you have McCaffrey, Cook, Henry, Kamara. I think it's no shocker that if I'm locked in there, I'm taking Ezekiel Elliott.
Wow, official announcement. There you go, boys.
I mean, of course, we have some days, barring Zeke.
His leg falling off or something like that. Yeah, he runs out of cereal, maybe something like that.
I think he's number 5, but if someone does they're thinking Zeke's going to have a further breakout year, he's going to get back to his normal self, or I know we've heard Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones' name pop up, and they want to reach on them, I don't consider it too much of a reach because they're not going to make it back, and it's very likely that, hey, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, they could finish as the number 1 back next year.
Draft your guy.
So, yeah. We'll see who falls to me, but I'm very comfortable with any of those running backs.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, I'm a little envious, being that I'm in the back of the line. I would much rather be in the front.
Shout out to Alex. I tell you what, sitting at 6, although I do like those running backs, sitting at 6 to me is a lot different than sitting at 5. I'm being able to guarantee myself one of those top 4. I think there's a tier break after the first 2, then after the next 2, and then Zeke. So I think that's I break that to 4 tiers. It's the top 2, Henry, Kamara, then Zeke, and then the rest. Being able to get into that 3rd tier there with Zeke was huge. Being at 6, I may even be looking at something else outside of running back, getting a positional advantage. But yeah, shout out to Alex for taking 12. Hopefully he makes the best of it.
Well, I don't think that'll probably be the case given his history. But since you brought up Zeke, yeah, he did. He's welcome. Big Brother beat up the rest of the division for him, so he could have a shot that he promptly squandered. Because if we're going into that, you beat him by 60 points.
Yeah, Big Brother beat up the rest of the division, and Daddy beat up his son.
Oh, Alex, you're grounded. But. So, okay, you just announced Zeke. I mean, barring nothing changing. Any concerns with, Dak?
No, he's looking good from what I hear. I've been watching some Hard Knocks, seeing how the Cowboys are
it's been boring.
Shaping up. The first couple episodes were decent. But, yeah, Zeke is looking like he's in the best shape of his life. he is nothing on tape that I've seen or in reports is telling me otherwise. Dak is apparently off any limits. Mike McCarthy, I believe today, came out and said. So feeling good about Dak. That offense is, as much as it pains me to say, going to move the ball this year, I think.
Yeah, they're going to be a premier offense.
Yeah, they have a lot of playmakers, and I personally still don't think their defense is all that great. So they're more than likely going to be in more high point games, as far high scoring games, than like some of the other teams, such as like you look at maybe the Rams with Stafford coming in. You're thinking, oh, they're going to put up points. Their defense is also really good. It could limit the ceiling that they have to go to. I think the Cowboys are going to be a more tough, high-scoring game.
Yeah, so they'll probably be similar. I mean, like they were showing it last year very early on. Like, I mean, the games with the Falcons and the Seahawks were just, case in points of like anybody can score on them and they can score on anybody.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean that's a great point. I can see why you like Zeke at 5. We cut so. You feel good about the draft. Are you hoping? Are there any players? And feel free, you don't have to answer this. Is there anybody you're hoping for coming back in the second, or is
round.
it just you just value?
I am hearing a lot of rumblings that our league is super running back heavy, and they all love their running backs, and to the point where I think there's some guys, I'll name them. I don't care. I'm very happy with anyone at that spot. So we're talking like the Joe Mixons, the Gibsons with potential risk there, the Clyde Edwards-Hilairs, that people are going to be taking them much earlier, which is going to leave me, I think, with a wide receiver value right in my lap, whether that's Stephon Diggs potentially falling. That
would be surprising, but
happy with where I'm at. I kind of hope it goes that way. But we adapt, right? It's what be liquid, be water on the draft day, and just whatever comes to you, take that form, take the draft from there.
Yeah, I mean, if the reports be believed, we've got anywhere from 15 to 20 going in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I'm all for the 20
Some
number.
people are theory crafting.
I'm all for the 20 number. You figure that's probably Hopkins or Diggs, and then Devontae,
Hopkins, Diggs,
Tyreek, and Kelsey being taken. If Kelsey or Hopkins or Diggs want to fall to me the second round, thank you.
I mean, yeah, even if it's not 20 on the money, you still would have a shot at someone like Ridley, DK Metcalf, those kind of guys, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple names there, Jefferson, A.J. Brown.
Jefferson, yeah, that's a good... Any chance for redemption there? You try to right that wrong?
I mean,
You correctly identified him last year. A lot of people did, but you got him.
I identified the fact that people were talking, hey, he's now going to become a starter. I went back. I actually watched so for tip of anyone out there, I actually had with the NFL, I believe it was Sunday Ticket, whatever it's called. You can go back and you can pinpoint players and watch condensed games. I actually went back and watched his, highlights, you can call them. And he just showed a ton of separation. He's quick. He was running crisp routes. Sometimes he had a little rookie things that I saw where he didn't look as crisp, but as the year went on, he did. And so dropped some good fab on him, was able to get him, and he showed out.
Did Bry draft him and drop him?
He did, and I think he dropped him. And
wow, that's got to be sick.
Yeah, I think I got him for 27, maybe, if I'm recalling correctly. It wasn't something astronomical.
No, I think it might have actually been less than that, because I think I had the second highest bid, and I think I only put in 17. I think you might have got him for 22.
Maybe. I know it wasn't. I know it was something where I was putting in the bid, and I even considered upping it the day before, because I was like, I really like this guy. Well,
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, any philosophy on the bidding for fab? I mean, you've already said you're a fan of it. Do you?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, it goes without saying, right? You got to know your competition. For instance, as we get down to the end of the year, there's a couple ways to play, right? You never want to. You can't keep it. It doesn't go home with you, so you got to spend it. But how are you going to spend it? I think there's a couple players that usually pop up during each year that you want to drop, sometimes all, and a good amount on to guarantee that spot. I also think there's a strategy to, depending how the year plays out, making sure that you're well equipped for the time of need and when you want to pick up a player. But there's plenty of things that go into it. We don't have enough time in this video as far as blocking other people, playing numbers, by paying attention to what your other not just the league, but your direct competition has. So I think we'll continue to get better with it as we go along. But pretty good year, I'd say, for fab. I think everyone played it pretty well. Got the hang of it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, those were all good points again. I feel there are several people in the league that don't fully understand or utilize the strategy of playing against their competition. Like, I've said this to some owners that I won't name, that, they'll draft a good team, and that's the end of it. Like, even if their decisions are
Steve,
are
is that
good.
what you're talking about?
Shout out to
It wasn't me,
to
Steve.
B Block's finest.
I
Yeah,
think
no,
they
I've
did
told
great
Steve
last
multiple times. He wants to be a champion. He's gonna have to be aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say every champ, with the exception of maybe one or two, everyone who's won has been aggressive with acquisitions. Trying to do things to give themselves an edge. And like, if you play scared money don't make money. But this isn't about me. It's about the commissioner. Going forward, like you said, as we adjust, and you did preface that, there may be some roster changes coming forward. Is there any rules you would like to see implemented going forward? Any that we currently have that you want to see
I tell you what
removed?
I don't want to see, and then I'll go into the one that you do. I don't want to see a lot. I don't understand the whole let's keep bringing up random things just to bring it up. Like that, I feel like hey, let's give receivers 1.25 points for a first down, and let's give.
I wonder who this is aimed at.
I think there was a couple people that brought this up. Quarterbacks, let's put them to 3 squared points for every touchdown. And, it's just too much. I feel like we're making it too complicated. We're trying to put through change just so there can be change. I actually really like our scoring right now. I really like where we're at in the league. As far as structure and rules are moving forward, as much as I was selfishly kind of being an ass and keeping the kicker around, I do think you've heard this from me before, I think fantasy is majority luck at this point. Kickers really play into that. I think that's something that our league will probably be better without. I think we had an opportunity this year as far as adding a third receiver. I'd be open to a flex, but I do think the receiver is the best option to go forward with. That's
Okay.
That's really all. I mean, that's the big one. I guess
I thought there was more coming.
Yeah, I was thinking about super flex, maybe a 2 QB if we wanted to get rid of defense as well.
We've had conversations about this. I think the only way if people want to make quarterbacks relevant is we have to do super flex. 6 points isn't enough. Doesn't change enough.
I actually agree with that. I would say if we want to make them relevant, 6 points isn't the move. The move is cut kicker defense, go super flex third receiver.
I support. See that's my commissioner, ladies and gentlemen. That's my commissioner.
But those would have to be voted on, of course. So this year we will not be looking at those. Look at it in 2022.
Commish, thank you for your time.
Is that it?
We're 23 minutes.
I didn't talk about what's going to happen this year for the Jake and everyone got breakdowns as far as.
Okay, enough. I thought you were out of time. All right, let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. All right. So you want to talk about where Jake and them are going? Let's talk about the East. Let's talk about the stiffer competition division, as several of its members have stated. How do you see the East shaking out? Or if you want to do a little, you used to have a segment called the Commissioner's Power Rankings. You would like to bring that back?
Yeah, we'll think about bringing that back on if we continue our shows. Obviously, they got a little out of hand last year for biases and Tommy being ranked 1, when in reality they should have probably been off the list completely. I think for the East this year, I don't believe in these hocus pocus things as far as
the Matt and
every
Steve.
other year. Yeah, I think it's tough to say, of course. I think Jake mentioned it without a roster, but I look at who's at the top of the draft. I think Steve is going to solidify himself with one of the best fantasy players, potentially the best fantasy player in the game. So I think Steve's going to make the playoffs. I want to say Brian in the playoffs. I feel like he's had a silent streak for a while, and I hope he's using that time to really get back to a little bit of retribution from last year.
I heard he's been watching a lot of arm wrestling videos.
Well, to each his own. But I'd say I'm going to go Brian, Steve, and I I'll go Jake. I think Jake will sneak in. I think Steve's going to win the division. Brian will be second. Jake will be third. It's going to be Steve's first time into the second round. I believe. Or no, sorry, he got the bye last year too. I actually think Steve's going to make it this year. I think he's going to be in
the championship.
Yeah.
He has told me that several times that this is his year.
Yeah. I'm feeling.
So well, let's say I can. Okay, so you started off with the because they're earlier in the draft, so they're going to have better players. You skipped Tom and went right to Jake.
Well, I think Tom's going to need a rebuilding year. First off, from what I'm hearing, they're changing, not ownership, but they're changing brands. They're going to go to, it was rumored on the other show, they're still going to be the Joes. They're not going to be the average Joes. I personally think the average in his name was keeping him afloat. Like, maybe they're going to the below average Joes.
The mediocre Joes.
So, I don't know. I just think they're, with Kamara and Dalvin Cook being on there, I'm assuming those are going to be the picks, but they have pretty locked in each week. Tom has a good one too, but give him credit where credit's due. It's hard to bet against Jake in the East right now. He's proven it 4 of the 5 years he's going to be in the playoffs, so gotta sneak him in somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure his already massive ego really appreciated that.
No hard feelings against Tom. I just think I think they need some time to build this franchise back up. We'll get there.
Yeah, the more I hear about this leaked rebrand, the less I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Although, with the Joes, I guess, I don't know, maybe I'll change my name to the Mikes.
Yeah, that's got to be weird. I've never actually asked that. Like, he's got a team with your name.
Yeah.
It's got to be flattering, I guess. I mean, they're on field performance, probably not so much.
Yeah, I mean, we take all the fans we can get.
All right, well then let's move to your home division, the West, where you have, I believe, a 4-year straight playoff streak.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So I wonder who you're going to pick here.
I'm going to put myself in the playoffs. Shocker. I hope anyone sitting in my chair would say, yes, I'm going to make the playoffs. If you go into a season saying, no, I'm not going to make the playoffs, I'd question your just mindset towards the fantasy year. I am going to go. I think Jose gets back on the horse. I think he's been a pretty consistent owner last year. Still had a pretty decent year up until the last couple of weeks. I think he fell off a bit. I think he's back on it this year. And yeah, I guess all arrows point to the Chant getting back in. Right? Have we had a year when the Chant missed the playoffs? I guess Matt is going off.
Matt.
Right? So
Matt definitely missed it.
And Brian last year. Right?
Brian, yeah.
All right, so
it would not be the first.
So if we're going by trends, then is it
first
every other that we're?
I also don't believe in superstitious hocus pocus.
Okay, so but I'll put you in there. I think, hoping, of course, very hopeful that I'll get the bye and lead on to the championship. I think it'd be a pretty cool story for me and Steve to be the
you versus Steve.
Yeah, I think we've been the two franchises that people kind of agree is they're right there, and we're making the playoffs pretty consistently. Where Steve's up there in the most wins all time in our league,
third all time,
the longest playoff streak in the league. To finally get over that hump and get to the championship, unfortunately, I think I just have to once again pack Steve home or send Steve home packing, I should say, and maybe next year. But I think this will be my year to bring it home, and we'll get another person's name on this trophy.
I mean, I would prefer my name goes on the trophy again. I think it looks great, but I mean, that's not outside the realm of possibilities. Like you have a good draft pick, Steve has a good draft pick, so I mean,
Yeah.
Hope everything.
See.
Don't root for injuries. Don't root for injuries.
Fantasy football's a bitch. Things happen.
Yeah.
Injuries happen. You have some weird trades that fall through, or COVID-like situations. COVID's still going to be in existence this year, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Yeah. Like, do you see COVID impacting as much as it did last year? Same?
I think it's going to be
reduced?
Far less, for sure. I do think I'm a fan of the IR even if COVID isn't around. So I think it's going to impact the league far less. Like people are vaccinated now. I know there's a Delta variant. I don't keep track as much as I probably should of this COVID scenario.
Yeah, I can't wait for Lambda.
Yeah, so but it seems to be obviously in the real world here, it's not in control, but for teams that are, I'm hearing 97%, 90%, 95% vaccinated, we're looking like we're going to have a much more control, or better control on COVID this year for the NFL, which is overall, get fans back in the stadiums, get, not have to worry about that when it comes to
one thing it did do, it completely destroyed the home field advantage with no fans.
Yeah, pumping and crowd noise, that's
just not the same, yeah.
Yeah. I think, barring COVID or anything like that, I do think there are some. This year's draft is a very interesting one for me. It's first one in a couple years where I'm looking at rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, and I'm still seeing a ton of value that I'd love to have on my team. So at all positions. So it's just whether or not your guys pan out, and we'll see if that happens.
All right. Well, now I do think that is all because we are at the 30-minute mark.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner, again, thank you for your time. Anything you'd like to say to the boys and girls watching at home?
Yeah, just this is the greatest weekend of the year, right? Labor Day, we get our draft coming, so no harsh words at the end here. I'll just say good luck to everyone this weekend. See you guys all Monday, and let's get this fantasy season started. Look forward to kicking off 2021.
Vote Tom 2022.